Change is happening. Climate change is on the minds of people in communities everywhere, and First Nations are no exception. Communities need to be able to adapt to change. The immediate effects and the need to act fall on today's community and its members, but the long-term issues will dominate the lives of today's children and their children. It is especially for them that attention needs to be paid to these issues today. This project is an early attempt by Wagmatcook First Nation to understand and prepare for change. I asked an elder what about climate change and what we've done. She told me climate change is a cycle, and it's really nothing we can do to stop a cycle of change. And how big do we think we are that we think we're causing the change? But there are some things that we have done, and there are things that we can do to probably slow down part of it.
First time I didn't believe in our ways. You know, I used to make fun of it. And then I started talking to the elders, not from here, but from other reserves when I go to powwows. And I started talking to them about our old ways.
To me, and to a lot of Native people, it goes in cycles. Just like the change from spring to summer to fall to winter. You know, we're still living in the same environment, but it's changing. And these are cycles. Climate change, it's going to happen regardless, because it is a change, and when you're talking about change does happen.
The evidence is that climate change is happening, whether it's man-made or whether it's just a natural cycle. And the theme of this particular project is adaptation, in which we simply say to ourselves, it's happening, and we have to adapt to it and get ready for it, because whether we like it or not, or whether we can slow it down or not, it's still happening, and we have to adapt to it. During the last 6 months, together with Nancy MacDonald, I've been working on this, gathering information and putting together a report on what climate change means for this specific community, as well as it can be figured out, and to suggest the things that should be done, which would let this First Nation adapt as the years go by to the effects that are expected to come from climate change. Temperatures are generally rising, and there's no question about that. It appears that the temperature rises in the winter are going to be greater than they will be in the summertime. So the winters are going to become warmer. They're going to become more warm than the summers are going to become warmer. And that's going to mean quite a bit. Since this is happening, whether we like it or not, and all of those mitigation measures are only going to slow down the rate of change. They're not going to reverse it. Nobody's even talking about reversing these changes. It's going to keep happening, so let's get ready.
We depend on fire, really, right now. We depend on electricity and fire.
It's a little ironic to me, you know, we need that fire to give us electricity. And that's all we needed before. We didn't have electricity. We didn't have any of these conveniences that we use now. But it was the fire that sustained our people. Like, it protected us from any wildlife that would be out there. It protected us to feed us, to cook our foods, to make our medicines, to warm us up. As a traditional and taken the teachings from our elders, even in the creation story, Creator gave us fire from a lightning bolt. And from that, man was created. From their stories, we know that our people have used fire to sustain them for forever, since they were Mi'kmaq.
The fire was based on life, energy, culture. We need the fire from the sun to have plants grow and trees to live, and for the life to exist in the earth.
Bukto, that's fire in our language. In our tradition ways, fire could heal you. Like when they have a sacred fire, the sacred fire could heal you. Huh?
The rocks are heated from the fire, from the sacred fire outside that is connected to the spirit fire of Creator. Where we put the rocks inside the sweat lodge, there's a pit there. It's an area that's dug. It connects to the fire in the center of the earth.
Well, actually, when you really do think about it, we do use too much carbon, and we do use too much fire. What we need to do is to balance it, is to reduce using the fire, reduce using the carbon.
In other words, what should we all be doing as a society to reduce the emissions of carbon dioxide? We should be becoming more energy efficient. We should be making less use of fossil fuels in every way we can, and themes like that.
Electricity might come from windmills or solar heat, solar panels.
Put windmills up in the mountains that would run the whole reserve.
You're going to get energy from water. Middle River, that river there, that you could put 2 turbines and you're going to get electricity from that.
It might take a while. The earth alone itself will heal. But if we keep going the way we're going right now, it's just going to have a harder time for that earth to heal itself.
The words I use are Wamigo. It's ground. Sitramu, that's the world. Dupkwan would be the soil that you pick up.
The earth gave us soil to plant food, and also it gave us flowers to get medicine.
We make our own medicine. I'll be going to the woods and gathering up what I need. I just take what I need, that's all. I don't go overboard and take the whole bunch home. Just enough for me and my wife, or if somebody's sick.
If I was a 10-year-old would be nice to go up to an elder and ask them can you take me up to this tree they're talking about, and I would like to experience it myself.
As the temperatures go up, the evaporation of water is going to be much more extreme. We're going to lose more water to the atmosphere because it is going to be warmer. And because our dry periods are going to be drier, and when rainfall comes, it's going to come more quickly and more intensely, and therefore run off more quickly, the levels of moisture in the soil are going to go down. The soils are going to become drier, and this will have an effect on insect life, animal life, and also plant life.
I'm sure if we go back and teach the young ones today to how to plant and grow potatoes, or even to grow a cornfield, or anything that related to gardening. Gardening keeps you busy, and it's really a hard work, but at the end, it's really rewarding. And when you go out there, when you find that this potato that I just plant there and it's growing, and it's when you go at the end there and you pluck it and you see it and it feels so good. And that's how I felt. My daughter feels so good when she does something like that, and she's so happy. Just like when you're, how when you're young and when you're playing in the sand, you're building a sand castle, and it's just like you get that exciting feeling when you play with dirt, but not only you're playing with dirt, but you're also giving life.
There's a lot of things that people try to tell us, like, well, that's not Mi'kmaq, that's not Native, that's not how it was, or that's not how it is. And that's using old, to me, that's using old thought. Like I say, we're changing, we're constantly changing. Sometimes there's reasons why different plants leave an area and then new plants come out. We have to use what we have. There's a lot of plants here that we know are not native. One is burdock. It grows everywhere. Recently, I learned that burdock and one of our medicines, bagosi, have the same medicines in the root. I know that a lot of people pick bagosi as an all-purpose medicine, and you have to go to the marshes to get it. But if we had to get burdock, it's just on our yards, Mine grows under my step. That's the same thing as dandelion. Dandelion is, well, as far as I know, is native here, but it grows everywhere, and we're just tossing it out and without even taking a second look at it. And it has a lot of healing properties. You pick the top soft dandelion and you pick the yellow part of the dandelion. You let it dry for maybe a day until all the moisture leaves it. You find a jar and you fill it up with the dandelion. Just stuff the yellow petals in a jar, and then you pour olive oil until it reaches the top and close it for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, you can use it as an oil, or you can go a little further and use beeswax and make a salve with it. There's different books out there that you can even get recipes of different herbs that grow.
Air is it's like a spirit, really. Air to me, it keeps you alive. Juicing is one word. That's the wind, juicing.
And the general rule of thumb seems to be, from what we can understand, that the extreme weather events, whether it's the dryness of the dry periods or the extremity or the rate of rainfall, the highest wind speeds, all of these things are going to become more extreme. So if we've been accustomed to having the very highest winds being, for example, typically 90 kilometers an hour, the scientists tell us that these wind speeds are going to go up by around 10%, the peak wind speeds. So rather than 90 kilometer an hour winds that we'd see here historically as being really extreme, we're going to start to see 100 kilometer an hour winds. when we get the high winds. And this means a lot in terms of the effect on structures and vegetation and so on.
A wind could bring anything.
Like I said, with wind, there's a lot of air that's coming from somewhere else that wasn't ours, and it comes through our communities, because there's times when after a strong wind that you go out there and you smell the air. You can smell forest fires from away, but as you get closer to my house, it starts to I can start feeling the clean air that's in that area, because the trees are filtering a lot of the air that flows through that area.
And to tell you the truth, when I was 10 years old, I was cutting trees down, and I didn't think that way. I didn't think about when I was cutting this tree down, I didn't think about these trees giving us air.
The increased wind speeds that I mentioned earlier are also going to now be kicking up even higher and more aggressive waves. Luckily for this community, and you're very lucky in this regard, your shorelines along the lake are practically all quite steep and rocky. So as you get that much more aggressive wave action and wind action on the shore, you're not going to see as much damage and as much erosion and distress caused here as would be the case if you had a really low-lying flat community where the effect of rising water level and more aggressive wave action and so on, it can be really quite profound. So count yourselves lucky, because you really are in that regard.
We just live in an area that's so protected, because, you know, we're not anywhere near an ocean right where we are here in Wagmatcook. And one of the reasons why our people built here is because of the protection of this valley, that we don't get the winds from the oceans. But we do get winds. When we get wind that comes from the south, that's usually when I go to town and fill up on candles and extra water and, you know, extra food, because they've always told us when we were even growing up, when we get the south winds and you feel the warm breeze coming right to my house's face south. I don't know why I did that, but when the wind comes toward me, that's when I say I have to pay attention.
In our community, in our tradition ways, air could heal you too.
If there was so much pollution out there that we weren't able to breathe this air, there's a place we can go to breathe clean air, and that would be inside a sweat lodge. It's pure air there. It's made by the water and the fire, the rocks in the womb of Mother Earth. It's all in there in this sweat lodge, and that would be the safest place to be.
Water is a very important element, if you ask me.
On our reserve, we have three streams. We have one big stream over here in the Middle River. Then we have one up the road. It's called Humes River. There's two Humes Rivers. Huh? We call one that's Lake Jabuji. It's called Humes River, though. And then the other one is way a little bit further up, and that's called Humes River.
There's different words for different places of water. A bacht. That would be the water out there on the lakes. Cebu would be the water on a river. Sibujij would be the little brooks. Gubog would be the spring water coming from, from the ground, that cool water I was talking about, that the one I keep mentioning that has a distinct smell. And when you're walking by it, you know it's there. It's a different kind of air. You feel that breeze. You smell it. And even if you look around that area, you'll hear more wildlife activity, more birds. You'll see little squirrels or whatever. It's livelier there. Even the leaves, when you're driving by somewhere and you know that you don't know if there's a spring there, you'll see trees, sort of the leaves moving, like rustling, even if there's no wind in the air. It's just a different feeling there. You'll get to an area where there's an opening in the ground, and it's just like it's like a big deep bucket on the ground. That's why I think it's a little dangerous too to just run through that moss area when you get in those areas, because you don't know where that gubog is.
Well, there's areas that, well, once you find a stream that and it's spring water, that most of the water that you see coming down that stream is coming from the well. And once you get to that well, it's nice cold, even in the middle of summer. There was a lot of moss growing along beside it, and it was more like a bog.
You find them anywhere. They come from, the ones that I'm thinking about in my mind, they all come from the mountains, the ones up here, I know the water vein that flows right through there flows right through my house, and it ends up down below at the beach. But along that area, you're going to see a lot of water holes.
We can also store it, just like what they have here, that huge tank, and there's the storage tank for the water for the reserve in Wagmatcook. And that's all coming from the spring water up in the mountains.
If I had a choice to drink the water that I drink, it would be water from our community, because I know where it comes from. I know it comes from the mountain. I know it comes from the water tower, and somebody's there all the time checking that water, and you should start asking their parents where that the water is, because I'm sure they still remember, as I remember, where those water holes are. I remember quite a few of them now, that there's houses built on them or different structures built there.
There's two or three places that you could drill water, get water from. There's one up in where the band office is, and there's another one up near Gazaweg. We call it Gazaweg, the point. Young people wouldn't know about these. To learn about it, I think you could just study it or tell the elders. Go to Bidek or go to the band office, and they'll get a map of the area.
Say if our water tower shut down and our pumps weren't running, or they were doing some maintenance on it, we'd have to know where our other waters are. Waters that we know are clean. And the waters that I know are clean come from our mountains here, because I know what's up there, and it's just, just nature. In our culture, it is a medicine. It's one of the stronger medicines that we have. If we don't have water, we don't exist.
We do need to know what this is, what this particular community can do. First of all, when we talk about the topic, one thing has become very clear, and that is that there's a really great need to monitor on a regular basis how these effects are taking place in a particular place. Well, the climate right here in Wagmatcook is not exactly the same as is at the Sydney airport. You have a different system of rainfall and wind speeds and snowfalls and all the rest of it. So in order to really keep track of what's happening right here, setting up some kind of community-based monitoring of things like rainfall and lake level precipitation and wind speeds and so on is very important. All the things that have been built by mankind here in the community, like roads and buildings and wharves and all the rest, as I say, luckily for this community, you're not very vulnerable. Probably the most vulnerable structure you have is the wharf, because it's right there at water level. It's exposed to wave action and all the rest, but it appears to be a good modern wharf, and it's been well built, and it's not one that's really vulnerable right now. But these things should be kept an eye on as time goes by. You have a community plan. I've reviewed that as part of this project, and there are some important topics in that plan to do with the community awareness and the theme of self-sufficiency and self-governance that are very important, and things to do with climate change and that look to the future should be incorporated during a review of that community plan.
You build a little model village and you start digging out little pieces, and then you bring your wind through it, because a lot of our areas here have been clear cut for progress. We never think about replanting many of these areas, and we have to start thinking that way. Because these plants aren't just going to come and grow back on their own. Trees are female, and that's why at ceremonies we wear our skirts. So Creator recognizes women as women, and the same as the tree. So the trees do, play a big part in our lives. They're the grandmothers. They're the ones that we start our fires with. The rocks we consider our grandfathers, and the earth our mother. You must have heard people saying the grandmothers and the grandfather, bring the grandmothers in, bring the grandfathers in. It's our trees and it's our rocks that we talk about. They're all connected, somewhere they're all connected. And when you talk about water, you're going to end up talking about the wind, and the wind with the air, and with the fire. They're all connected.
Take your child to see an elder. If you see an elder, they'll explain more on tradition ways.
Talk to your grandparents about the culture, about your culture, about our culture. Experience it.
But if you want to learn something, you go look for it. You go look for it. Ask questions, you get your answers.